Hello, in this video we will see some data transformations using Python. First, I will import two libraries, NumPys and Pandas. Now we need a data frame to perform some data transformations on it. We can either import it through pd.read function, but here I am making my own data set. For that, first I am creating a data frame from a list. This is the list, and assigning a column name to it. Here is my data frame. I am making a database with the names of 5 students and their scores in 3 tests. So, I have already created the column with the student names. Now, I will be creating 3 columns which will have random numbers which we will consider as the marks of these students across 3 tests. Let me explain this code. Here I am using the numpy.random.uniform function. The uniform function, the random uniform function, returns a random samples from a uniform distribution over the half open interval. Half open interval means that the random numbers can have the lowest value 0, but it will not have the highest value, that is 10.1. Since I am assuming that these students answered an exam out of 10 marks, that's why I am giving the high value as 10.1, because if I would give it as 10, I would get random numbers that does not include this number, and there might be some students who have scored full marks. Here I have mentioned the size of the data frame, that is, it should have 5 rows and 3 columns, and here I have given the names of the columns. I have also given it a round function in the same line, because if I don't give a round function, it will give me an output with 6 digits after the point. So I will give it a round function which gives us the value up till 2 decimal points. Next, I will combine the both data frames that I have created now using the pd.concat function. I have given this axis equal to 1 because I want the data frames to be joined side by side and not one on top of the other. If I don't give axis equal to 1, it will consider axis equal to 0 and give us this output, and this is not correct. So I will give axis equal to 1. Now I want to use the index column as a serial number of the students, but serial number doesn't start from 0. So I will change the index so that it starts from 1. Okay, now let me view the data frame. Okay, now the serial number or the index is starting from 1. Now we can see that the column names is not formatted in a uniform manner, as in these 3 column names have the first alphabet capitalized, but this one has all small characters. So let me rename this column so that it looks more uniform. So most of the schools have 2 internal tests, and some have 3 internal tests, and the best of 3 is chosen, as in the 2 highest numbers are chosen out of the 3 tests. So here I have made a simple function that will return the maximum number out of all the 3 tests. What this does is it finds average of all the 3 tests separately and gives out the highest average. Here I have used a lambda function so that this function can be applied to each row separately. And finally, I have rounded this so that we don't get an output with 6 decimal points. 6 numbers after the decimal point, but just 2. Let me see. Now, if the final score of a student is less than 4.0, that means that he has failed. So, I will apply a lambda function here that will change the background of the final score cell depending on whether the student has passed or not. That is, if the score is below 4, the background color will be red, and if the score is above 4, the background color will be as it is. And since I want to apply this just to the test columns and not the text column, that is a column that has string values in it, that's why I am specifying this subset over here. If I don't give the subset, this lambda function will try to apply this styler to the string column as well and will return an error. Okay, so we can see that not a lot of students have not performed well in this test. 3 out of 5 students have failed in the final test. Next, let us add another column at the end that specifies explicitly if a student has failed or passed, so that we don't have to depend on color codes. We get exact confirmation if they have passed or not. So for that, again I have written a very simple if-else function, and I will apply this function to the final score row. We can see that all the students who have received marks less than 4 have failed, and anybody who has received marks more than 4 has passed. Now I will apply the same color coding styler function of pandas to the result column as well. Here anybody who has passed has the background color of green, and all the fail has the background color of red. Now what if I want to print this as a report card? For that I will save it to an Excel, and also in the Excel I want these colors to be visible. So for that I have written the styler again, and I have written. Now what if I want to print this result physically? For that I will have to save it to a Excel. So here I have used the method toExcel to the styler function. Use the toExcel to the styler function so that I get this color code also in the Excel. If I directly use toExcel to the data frame, I won't get this color coding. I'll get a plain Excel. So the Excel name is result.xls. This Excel is saved in the same location as the Jupyter notebook. If I want to save it in some other location, I will have to give the location as well over here. This is the Excel that got printed. It has the student names, the test scores of all the 3 tests, the final score, and the result with the color coding. Now to see some other data transformations, I have imported another CSV file as df2. I have given this separator over here because usually the CSVs are separated by a comma, but in this case it was separated by a semicolon. So if I don't give this separator value, the data set will be something like this. Now let's use the df2.info. Here I can see that we have a total of 395 entries, 9 columns, and a few of the columns have null values as well. So let us see the null values. Okay, so address, health, and absence columns have null values. So here I have written a code that will print out a table of the number of null values in a column and the percentage the null value constitutes of. So here what I have done is, first I have found the number of null values in all the columns and arranged it in descending order so that the column with the highest number of null values appears first and the column with the least number of null values appears last. Here I am finding the percentage of null values in the column and giving it a round function so that I get just one number after the decimal point. Then I am concatenating these both data frames to form a final missing data frame. Since health and absences columns have a very low number of null values, I think it is safe to drop them. Let's see the null values now. Now only the address column has null values. One of the methods to handle categorical null values is to replace it with the most frequently occurring category. Though this method has a disadvantage that it might sometimes imbalance the data set. So let's see which category appears the most in the addresses column. For that I will write df2.add. We can see that most of the students come from urban areas, since U represents urban and R represents rural. So U is the most frequently occurring category in this column. So we will replace the null values with U. Now we can see that there are no null columns at all. This method idxmax gives us the ID of the value that has the maximum number of results. So we are filling the null values with fill NA with the ID of the value that is occurring most frequently. After this step, we can use libraries such as Matplotlib, Seaborn and other visualization libraries to visualize the data so that we can choose a correct model to train this data on.